mobile games. In the early to late 2010s, it was quite the trend to make mobile games based off of popular adult animated shows, such as The Simpsons and Family Guy, and I have tons of nostalgic memories playing these games growing up. They appealed to me as I watched a lot of these shows back in the day. So, today, I want to take a look back and explore all 10 of these games, and rank them from ultimate, to great, to okay, to mid, and the greatest sin of all, Micro Max. Will these games be any fun, or just full of quick crash caps with zero value? This is going to be a wild ride, so join me to rank every adult cartoon mobile game. Seeing as though this video is all about adult cartoon mobile games, I thought I'd start off the first one to really take phones by storm. Released in 2014, Simpsons Tapped Out is a game based on The Simpsons, developed by EA, the Greek gods themselves. Simpsons Tapped Out is one of those city building games where you start off in a desolate husk of a destroyed Springfield, but eventually build it up to be your own little Simpsons-themed utopia. I would just be honest, Tapped Out never really appealed to me when I was younger. Came out in 2013, and other than that cool Lego Simpsons episode that I saw back then, I never really liked Simpsons that much and wasn't really a fan of it. I remember playing it here and there, but I just wasn't really all that invested. There was a lot of criticism for this game, even from freaking South Park, who thought it was more of a wild MCR than an actual game, and I definitely agree with that. I remember that my aunt was a big Simpsons fan, so she played the game and it had a huge map of locations from the show, and she definitely spent some money on it, and that's what I think the goal of this game is. Money. While playing it for this video, I do think it's fun if you play it for the first 10 minutes and never touch it again, as realistically, if you're not planning on spending money on the game, you're going to be spending a long time trying to make any progress, and that is no fun. Micro Max tier. This would have been a good game if the main goal wasn't dollar signs for EA. Well, time to move on to Tapped Out Family Guy edition. Holy fuck. This game starts off kinda meta. Family Guy gets cancelled again, and when they meet up with the president of Fox, it's Ernie the Giant Chicken. This leads to a long, big, drawn-out chicken fight just like from the show, which leads to the entire city of Quahog being destroyed. And in the game, you're tasked with rebuilding it, which leads to lots, and I mean lots, of microtransactions. I do have fond memories playing this game back in 2016 when I was like 12. While not really a big fan of the show now, I was a huge Family Guy nerd back then. I was pretty crazy about the show, even to the point where I would defend its decline whenever my friends would talk about it. What a Fam Guy stan, bro! But seeing as I was a fan of this show, it made sense that I played the game a lot more than Tapped Out. I was hooked on this game back then, so I was a lot more familiar with Family Guy and the references to the show compared to The Simpsons. I grinded on this game so much, and I remember my city being pretty sizable. Hey, even had Bonnie pole dancing on that pole, so you know I was litty. But even then I wasn't satisfied because, I don't know, I just wanted stuff. I was just addicted. I just wanted more stuff like the White House for some reason, which led me to begging my uncle for $10 just so I could get enough clams to just buy the White House and put it in my Family Guy Quest for Stuff map. And he said no. Well, good on him. After a while, I never even touched the game again. But after recently revisiting this game, do I think it holds up in 2023? No, it's just a complete carbon copy of Simpsons Tapped Out with a Family Guy skin. And it starts off super slow compared to it. At least with Tapped Out, you can make a decent amount of progress in the game without having to wait so long. And I feel like despite having the same amount of downloads, Tapped Out has just more pause compared to Quest for Stuff. That doesn't mean I'm putting Tapped Out on a pedestal or anything. At the end of the day, both of these games have one thing on their mind: money, and lots of it. I mean, both of these games have made over $100 million, so yeah, very telling where these games' priorities lie. These city building games are chock full of microtransactions and aren't really an enjoyable experience or worth playing unless you just put some serious cash down. That alone is why Family Guy: The Quest for Cash is also going to lower ranking in Macro Max. And as this form of proper adult cartoons mixed with building sim games wasn't enough, we have one more on a chopping block. I find this game to be the strangest out of all the city games. Unlike Simpsons or Family Guy, shows that are still going to this very day, Futurama had ended years prior to this game's release, and way before the reboot was even announced, so to make a mobile game about it during this post-Futurama era was pretty strange. It seems as though people behind the show were pretty excited to make the game though, even bringing back the Futurama voice cast, which at the time was pretty neat to see. I actually never played this one when it was released back in 2017, as at that time I was burnt out from these type of city builder games, and just mobile games in general. And I was, just too busy watching at 3 AM videos back then. Plus I just wasn't very familiar with Futurama back then, unlike now where I literally got banned from a South Park server just for posting a Futurama meme. I kind of regret not playing the game back then, as in April of 2023, the game would be delisted from the App Store with the servers being completely shut down. And this is just 2 months before, I don't know, the Futurama reboot that's coming out on Hulu in June? Coincidence? Wouldn't that be the perfect time to release updates onto the game and cash in? This just kind of breaking me right now. I can't play. Since I couldn't play this game, I decided to watch some Let's Plays of it to see if it was any good. And while still a cash grab of a game, I think it's better than the last two games that we've covered. Futurama Wars of Tomorrow has the same flaws as the last two games, but I think what sets it apart is the story. In the game, the entire universe of Futurama is being corrupted by these black voids, so in the game you not only get to build up the world of Futurama, but also save the universe in the process. Fun stuff. I still think this would have been a cooler concept for an actual game and not this mobile garbage, but I can't blame them because it definitely made tons of money. Anyway, Wars of Tomorrow is a game that I'm very mixed on. It has a good story. It was awesome to see these characters on any screen again, but something about it just being another generic building sim did not gel with a lot of people, including myself. I think Futurama deserves better, especially since it wasn't on the air at that time. You know, I want to put it in a Micro Max, but I think I'm just going to put it in meh. It's still a money-hungry game, but there were some things I liked about it, and it's a lot more engaging than the last two. Just not a fun game if you're trying to protect your wallet. Well, Ramalamas, it's time to come on down to South Park and have ourselves a time. As a kid, I always wanted a South Park game on the phone. I never got to play Stick of Truth or Fractured Butthole on console, as I didn't have a console, and when I was at my uncle's who had an Xbox, he wouldn't get the game, so I was jumping for joy when it was finally released back in late 2017. I remember when it came out, I was so stoked to play it on my phone, but my phone was just too old and outdated, so I could never play it. Then I just completely forgot about the game entirely until now. And after playing it for the first time, I can confidently say that it's a pretty good game. I remember when this came out, people weren't too crazy about it, but I think it still holds up. It might not be the best game of all time like Stick of Truth. It may not have a cohesive or interesting story, but it's undeniably South Park. It's an RPG, so it's in the same vein as the mainline games, but this time it's a card strategy game. Over your playthrough, you collect cards of characters from the show, which you summon in battles. As a huge South Park fan, I can confidently say this is one of the best aspects of the game. You get to level up your cards so they can do even more damage on future battles. And once you find the cards that you really like, you can add them to a deck of cards for later in the game. Usually I'm not the biggest mobile card gamer, other than that Adventure Time card game from like 10 years ago. I haven't really been into these types of games at all, but I think I kind of like this game because it's just South Park and the game is pretty rewarding. It's awesome collecting these cards with different characters and versions to the show. It's just so addicting opening these card packs. I just can't describe it. The main gameplay has you going down the street, summoning your characters to battle enemies along the way, and eventually making your way to the end of the block and battling various bosses. The graphics in this game are pretty nice. It has that classic South Park style, and you even get to customize your own South Park character. This is my dream growing up. I do wish there was a lot more exploration like in the main games instead of just going from match to match, but you know, it's a mobile game. It's pretty hefty and data hungry already, as I had to install additional storage for this game 3 separate times throughout my playthrough of the game, which was already annoying, so I can let it pass. I think the card art is the best thing about this game. It's just really amazing seeing all these South Park characters in this epic painted style. I wish the whole show was animated like this for real. The main gripe I do have about this game is microtransactions. Surprise, surprise, I know, right? I find it pretty funny that despite their freemium and free episode from back in like season 18, exposing the evils of these shameless mobile games, clearly aiming at games like Simpsons Tapped Out and Quest for Stuff, they eventually did the same thing. While the game is fun, it definitely feels pay to win, especially in multiplayer. In my experience with the game, when you're at level 1 through 4, battles are pretty fair since most of the people you're playing against are noobs just like you, so they're going to have the same cards and characters as yourself, so it's a lot more fair. And in these battles, I was winning a lot, but once you advance to level 5, you hit a roadblock where most of the players you play against are more advanced, or just spend a whole bunch of money on stronger cards in the game that you're no match against. And I noticed because I died like 10 times in a row in the multiplayer matches due to this. To which I thought, maybe it's just because I haven't changed my deck since I started playing the game. So, I did that just to lose again. I find the story of the game to be the most lacking. It has cutscenes sprinkled in here and there, mostly amounts of being meta about mobile games. Like, I did not expect Kyle telling me to touch grass.
Maybe you shouldn't be on the phone so much, you know?
Even the ending is just influenced by how much money you spent in the game.
Excellent work, new kid! Of course, now we will need to be collecting your payment for the game. All these costumes, props, and sets cost a lot of people time and money, so now, let's see what your contribution to our game has been. That's not cool. People worked really hard on this game.
Jeez, what a dirty trick the new kid played on us.
Overall, I like South Park on the shore. I was going to put it in great, but I think it deserves an ultimate tier. It has its flaws, and pretty much all the updates for the game have stopped as of 2022, leaving this game pretty much dead in the water, but, you know, I love South Park. This is my video. I can have my own biases, okay? And it's a pretty enjoyable game to grind on. And I definitely couldn't put that on my phone when playing the game. And it is a lot more polished than... Similar to South Park Phone Destroyer, Animation Throwdown is a card-based mobile game. In the game, you destroy the entire universe, but end up making 6 new universes at the same time. each one from a different adult animated show, such as Family Guy, Simpsons, Archer, Bob's Burgers, Futurama, and King of the Hill. And the game is you battling these characters from these shows, card game style. I played this for like 10 minutes and immediately got bored of it. Level design is very missed potential. Every island has a main location from each of the shows, and it doesn't look half bad. This would have been so awesome if this was a Smash Bros. Inspired game. What do we get? Card battle game. And unlike Phone Ashore, where there was actual combat with the cards being more just a way of summoning the characters, this game is very stiff and lazily animated cards bashing into one another, which is just so boring, lifeless, and uninspired, especially for a game based off of, cartoons. The whole game just feels like it was made with zero effort or no care. Just churn them out. We're gonna get 10 million downloads and lots of money anyway. The card designs aren't even original, just ripped out straight from the shows that they're based on. The game is just very boring and lackluster. There's no challenge, and if there is a challenge, it's just a way to get you to pay microtransactions. Micro tier. This is the most mobile game on the list. Speaking of, I think it's time we talk about it. When your game literally has mobile game in the freaking title, you know the game is not going to be sweet. Actually, it's just going to be plain awful. There were tons of red flags before I even downloaded this game, with people rightly being pissed off at this game's shameless money hunger, with tons of reviews saying that there was a level in this game that was impossible to beat without in-app purchases. Meaning this game is literally unplayable up to a certain point unless you put down some cash for a Candy Crush clone?
That's fucked up. It's fucked up. It's fucked up. It's fucked up. That's fucked up. And that's fucked up.
Instant micro tier. I never got to that point of the game. I just got sick of it after like 20 minutes, but that alone is just so shameless. Pierre is now a bartender or something, so you serve various Family Guy characters' drinks by matching different colored glasses to get combos. The more combos you get, the faster you can get them wasted. And what is your reward for all of that? A reveal of some wacky thing that happens in the picture. Brilliant stuff. Sometimes things switch up, like how there's a level where you help Meg get lipstick or something, and help Quagmire get some protection. This game sucks. The creator of this game is just so shameless and off the charts, especially when there's parts of the game you can't even beat without wasting your money. I remember struggling on that stupid Meg level. I kept running out of moves and the game kept pressuring me to watch an ad or pay $4 for a stupid power-up. What can you expect from a game with mobile game straight in the title? The game is not worth your time. Do not play it. Next. I know this game is supposed to be intentionally bad, but I really can't give it a pass. The whole game is based off of a Rick and Morty episode where Jerry plays this exact game, but I don't know why you want to turn this into a real game other than for shits and giggles. Hey look guys, it's Jerry. He plays a stupid game. He's so stupid for playing it. Isn't that funny to you? Well, if it isn't, then this game isn't for you. The whole game has you popping balloons while various Rick and Morty characters tell you how smart you are for popping a balloon. Yeah, it gets boring after like 5 minutes. But those film games even delisted it from the App Store, so it wasn't that great of a game. I can't in good conscience give it anything but meh. I know it's supposed to be intentionally bad, but I just don't think it justifies the game's existence. Moving on. Fucking Morties is a classic Pokemon inspired game, and a really good one, mind you. I was never the biggest Pokemon fan back in 2016, or now. I just played occasionally, but I can appreciate what they went for here. Graphics in this game are just awesome, and I love the top-down style they went with. You get to explore different dimensions, have Morties beat each other to death, and fight Citadel leaders to win badges. It's just a really fun time. I spent 3 hours straight playing it, and it really brought back childhood memories of me having a blast with this game back in the day, while waiting for season 3 of the show. Boy, those were the days, am I right, guys? Look how far we've come.
I'm Pickle Rick! Pickle Rick!
There are a lot more microtransactions in this game than I remember, and you get pressured to watch an ad every time you win a game, but the game doesn't constantly shove it down your throat. You progress in the game perfectly fine without having to pay anything. I feel like this game's main flaw, if any, is that it just gets stale after a while. I remember when I was a kid, I loved this game, but after I explored every dimension and did everything I realistically could to progress, I still hadn't beaten it despite spending months on it, so I just kinda gave up on it and didn't play it until now. Which I believe is a testament to this game not having much variety. It's a good Pokemon inspired game to grind on, sure, but after a while it just stops being that interesting. Despite that, Pokemon still holds up as one of the best mobile games based on an adult cartoon. Way better than Jerry's game. It's going right in Ultimate tier. Let's see what we got cooking up next. Rick and Morty Clone Rumble is one of the least popular adult cartoon mobile games on this list, only having around 10,000 downloads, which is extremely low compared to Pocket Morty's or even Jerry's games, so what the freak happened, man? Well, Clone Rumble is another Pokemon-inspired mobile game, with Rick and Morty skin. But while Morties was inspired by the classic Pokemon titles, Pokmon was clearly inspired by the more modern open world ones. The game was released exclusively for beta testers in 2020, but never got an official release, and while there are APKs of the game online, most of them totally have viruses and don't work at all. Kind of head scratcher as to why this game never came out, because Adult Swim Games seemed to put a lot of effort into it, but the only people who had the privilege of playing it were beta testers from India. And with being 3 years since the game was teased, it's safe to assume this game has been scrapped as of now, as when a beta is released for the game, it's usually to work out the kinks and bugs, but also to draw a pipe. But this game hardly got any traction, only being mentioned in a few articles and only having a handful of gameplays online. I wish I could have played the game for this video, as that's what I try to do for every game so far, but seeing as I realistically can't, I watched gameplay footage of it to come to my own conclusions on the game. And what were my thoughts? It's alright. I think the combat compared to Pokemon is pretty random and not as satisfying. 3D environments look awesome and full of life, but most of the character models look kinda cursed. The thing that sets this game apart from Pokemon is that it actually has an ongoing story. Pokemon, the only real plot was that, oh no, Rick got his Pokemon taken by the Citadel. Keep winning Morty battles to get it back. And while I think the game is still fun, I can't lie and say that after a while it gets pretty still having to do the same battles repeatedly with not much of variety to shake things up, which is my main criticism of the game. But I can confidently say that Clone Rumble improved on this. Sure, the story's not that great, it just comes down to, look, it's Macho Rick, he's totally evil, we got a little beat him, Morty. Yes, that was my Rick impression, by the way. Be gone, Justin Roiland. However, the story progresses as the game goes on, and with all the side missions you get to do along the way, it makes for a way more immersive experience than Pokemon in my opinion. However, the negatives of this game kind of outweigh the positives, as it's definitely pretty janky in a lot of areas, and the battles just aren't really satisfying or anything to write home about. While I do think it's cool that you get the battle using characters from the show other than just Morty this time around, combat to me just feels so off and disjointed. Overall, I still consider Clone Rumble to be better than a lot of the other games on this list. I was going to put it in OK tier, but I think it deserves to be put in great tier. American Dad Apocalypse Now is like that Fallout Shelter mobile game, but with an American Dad reskin. When this game released, even though I'm a huge fan of American Dad, I just did not see how this had any reason to exist and I never played it. But after playing it for this video, actually, I think it's pretty enjoyable. The world is taken over by aliens, so to fight against them, you have to phone Roger to build an army to overtake them, and build a bunker to house them. It's a pretty fun game, I can't lie. It's so satisfying to build up your own army and base all in the world of American Dad. I love what they did with the 3D landscapes and the setting of it, and it taking place in a dystopian wasteland version of the show. The effort actually did go into this game, which I can appreciate. It's not just something gripped straight out of the show like animation Throwdown. Combat in the game has you hitting your rods or phones against enemies and receiving chests as rewards to be able to upgrade your arm. Though I do feel that the combat is pretty bare bones, you just hope and pray that you win as it's all auto, and sometimes I feel like things like upgrades just aren't very well explained. I went through many battles unscathed and received tons of loot, but at a certain point the loot just became useless as my armor wasn't even loaded up enough to equip the newer weapons and tools, and because of this I just kept getting my ass kicked from there on out. There was a mentioning of a training room where your army and train and become stronger, but where? Do I buy it? Do I just suck at the game now? Because I sure as heck don't see a training room, do you? A lot of people say that the one thing that distinguished this game compared to Fallout was that there was just more character, meaning you could be more immersed in the game, and I couldn't agree more. It's genuinely entertaining to see these characters' interactions, especially for an American Dad fan such as myself. I'm not even just talking about the dialogue. Even the little things like Stan imagining Francine coming home just for her to disappear because she's not even in the game at that point, which makes him super depressed, which I find pretty funny. However, there are some jokes in here that just kind of fell flat. I just wish the humor was just better at times. Overall, this is going in great tier. I think the game having a simple but effective plot and characters elevated it above the rest. And with that, that is every adult cartoon mobile game ranked. It was pretty fun to make this video and explore these games. A majority of them ended up being pretty shameless cash grabs, which was to be expected. But I was also pleasantly surprised there were some good games here that I genuinely enjoyed. I know this is a lot different from my usual content on this channel, but I wanted to do a video like this for a while, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. I got some bangers coming out right after this, so if you could just please like plus subscribe if you haven't already, it would really make my day so much better. Thank you for watching, I'm Remedies, and I will see you around my llamas in the next video.